Hello, how are we doing today? And newbie mistake, I forgot to turn off my microphone. I was watching something earlier and I forgot to turn off the mic. How are we doing? I'll edit that part out if I remember. Let's see, where do we leave off? So, I think yesterday, it's scary, it's only yesterday, I barely remember. We worked on creating this main event secrets, and I went and I gotta refresh this because that's no longer what it looks like. I went and created this main event secrets, and I took out the secret ID because it's going to be a one-to-one. I just really wanted them in a separate uh, sort of separate table so that we show them differently in the API. And I know I could hide the columns in the API, but I didn't want to do that because you get an object back that has a bunch of fields that are null. You might think there's a problem. So instead, I just created an object. So let's go and look at what that object looks like. So in our models, we now have a conference secret that has all these special properties that we wanted to take out: the Google Analytics code, Bing API, Facebook, Twitter, etc. So we took all those out. And the reason why these are not in a API, so to speak, or sorry, not in like app config or something else, is because these domains can be, or this site can be shared out with multiple different occurrences. We look now, let's open this up. I can actually open this table now because I deleted all the rows and moved them over here. Let's jump to query console and let's do console one. I don't think I actually had any open. So if we do select star from Meetups, we'll see that we have an MVP Summit Events, North America, or Tech Ed, which is a thing of the past, as you can see, it's 2013. This is also a notable copy of the database and the production database. I should probably boot this up. I'm going to do something. My screen is not sharing the whole screen. I forgot why. I think it's because I have the banner below, but the banner was only supposed to take up this space here, which is fine. But a lot of these things are repeated over and over again. We can actually probably change a lot of this to maybe have distinct ones. So the idea is a conference or main event will have one or more sub events. So you create something called like the MVP Global Summit, and then each year there's a different version. So I created a different secret for each of them, even though these secrets should be the same. So in theory, I can actually tie these to the actual conference and not individually, but I don't have a master main event, so to speak, or main event. This is the actual conference itself, and then each conference has sub events where ideally I can create something called the MVP Global Summit that has all this information in, like the domain name and everything else. But I don't want to refactor the entire app. The purpose of this was to get it into .NET 5 and make it a little bit easier, supportable, blah, blah, blah. So where do we go from here? So I created, and I notice I say so a lot. Most people do ums and lahs. I say so as my breathing room. Where do we go? Where do we go? Well, let's just show that it worked. Let's go to integration test. And then I can put a breakpoint here to show our new conferences. Runs. I don't have an API for the other one yet. We'll build that today, or at least an endpoint for it. And come on, debug. Okay. We should have 12 conferences because that's what's in the database. And then if I open this up, you'll see we have 12 conferences, 0 to 11, and then all the details. But gone are all the secrets. This Twitter widget ID is not a secret, which is why I left it in there. So everything is good now. We don't have that massive overlap and all the secrets potentially spilling into the API. Let's continue that. So the test passed. Now let's go and build the API. Before we build the API, we need a method for it. So let us go to our, we're going to ultimately have to put it in the data part and then data SQL. But beforehand, we're going to have to update the conference manager and the conference repository interfaces. Let's do this. We want to return. I can create a separate endpoint for it or anything, but it should be part of the conference manager since it's part of the conference itself. I don't want to create a separate endpoint or a separate manager for it since this has to deal with all of it. And then we want it to have a conference ID. Oops, this is the interface. Go. And then let's do a task. So we have the asynchronous one in here. And I know I could do when we get their records, but I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to introduce something yet new again. Int conference ID. Let's put semicolon here. Should be get conference secret. Go. Manager should have same. And then these are going to complain now because they're not implemented. So let's go and implement them. I'm going to copy and paste to save the guilty. It's going to be get conference secret. I could make it so that it has the sort I'm looking for. I'm going to eventually, we're going to turn this API into be a little bit more secure and only certain levels can get to it. Get conference async int conference. I love the fact that ReSharper knows exactly what I'm doing. It should be return underscore conference repository dot get conference secret async. Even though that's not created yet, it knows that that's what I want to call it. This should be get conference secret. Okay, now let's go into SQL, which is the actual implementation. And if you're new to watching this or this segment of the stream, we have our data, which has the repository. We follow a repository pattern. This is how everything loads. But inside of here, not inside, we pass it in the actual repository to use. And in this case, it's a SQL Server repository. So this has everything that we need to access the SQL Server. If we were to move it to, let's say, CosmoDB, all we'd have to do is create another event meetups.data.cosmodb. The name doesn't matter, but this is the standard that I use for it. Now, ReSharper is complaining that I have to implement it, so let's do that to at least create dummy methods at the end. And this should just be a var db conference. It's a save. I don't want to copy from the save. Just copy from the get. We can actually just literally do this. Don't I need to map it? I need to map it. This is the one I actually want to do. Let's do this. This should be get conference secret. This one is a little bit different. So let's do, we're not going to return the whole thing. We're only going to return the conference secret portion of it. But we don't need all this. But we do have to tweak this. This is still returning a conference. So we want to event that, oh, not good. Main event secrets, first or default async, mes dot main event ID equals conference ID. Go. Why are you complaining? Why are you complaining? We're returning, we want to return a domain. This should be returning a main event secret. Oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. No, I don't need to do that because this should be a domain model. Oh, this is going. I want the get. Yeah, domain models. What did I miss? It should return a domain models. Domain models. I'm missing something. What am I missing? This should return a main event secret. First for default. I think, Joe, what are you missing? Oh, I know what it is. Async. Ripper normally tells me. I'm trying to guess it on myself. Okay, so now we have our method. Which really should be conference secret. Oh. Now we're good. Well, let's go and implement the endpoint. So that should be relatively simple. we are going to choose a get with a keyword in there. Thinking I want to do something like this. So public conference secret, get conference secret int ID. Return get conference secret ID. And then for the path, I think I want to do HTTP get. Template will be secret slash ID. Or now let's do it this way. ID slash secret. I think that works. So that will give me a URL like localhost / conferences /1 / secrets, which is kind of what I want. So let's try that out. Let's do a debug. See if we get here. If we get here to this breakpoint, that means it works. So we should be good. And before I call it, I'll hit the secret because I don't know if I'm going to need to change these or not. And it opened up on a different screen, which is fine. These are the actual conferences that we see, and it's a lot smaller than what we've looked at. So now I should be able to go to /1 / secrets, and it worked. I'm going to go into secret mode, and I'll make sure they work because I think the secrets in there are actually secrets. So you should see the working on secrets banner now, and I will hit play, and then I'll show you that it's working once it pops up on the screen. Yep, we'll get a little teaser of it. Let's just take this window, and I kind of move it over just to show you that some of it's there. And let's come back. There we go. As you see here, we got main event 1, and then Bing app ID, and then a number, Facebook image, and a number, and some other random one. If I change it to number 2, actually, I think 2 also works. Where's our console? Let's go to our console and see what we have. Where's my database console? See it? Oh, there's database. Nope. Go. I don't remember closing it. So let's go console. Doesn't appear. There it is. I'm going to pick a different number just to show. So let's go for 5. I'm going on the other screen, which has it done, so you can see the names change. Let's take off that breakpoint because we no longer need it. Resume. And here we go. Now we got 5. Bing app ID is ironically the same because they use the same Bing credentials for all the apps since it's just the one app. And then this part is different. So cool. So that's working. We added the API separate from what we had. Now what can we do, or what do we need to do? We got the endpoints for looking at conferences. We got the endpoints for working with the meetups. What is next for us to do? I guess really the next thing for us to do is uh, create the UI. I really think that's it. I mean, we'll probably need to create new APIs as we go, but we need some form of user interface for it. Now, there's two different things to do. If we go to the site now, which is like one of them is MVP Summit Events Info. Yes, it's not secure. I don't have a certificate for you because certificates, or at least weren't a thing when I first put it together, or at least weren't as important as they are now. But this will do it. There's really nothing on here anyway that's super sensitive. So we can start building out a user interface similar to this. We can do it in MVC, or we can do it in Razor pages, or we can just skip it and go straight to a mobile app that's responsive, like something like React Native or Ionic. Ionic gives you the ability to do more apps, or you can do it in Blazor, but then I have to worry about what do we do when we get a mobile app. So kind of up in the air. If there's any viewers that want to suggest what it is, we can do that. Oh, when I click on my email. That was weird. I gotta remember to go black that part out. Party with Palermo is always a good event. I don't want to go with MVC with it because some of this leads very easily towards the MVC pattern, like domain name / event. So if I just change this to like 7, it loads the one. Doesn't load the one for 7 because that one didn't exist. Remember, there was one of them that didn't exist. Did it? Okay. Let's see what our options actually are. So, we got the ASP core documentation up. I'm actually looking at this, doing a separate stream, maybe Thursday, with this new API structure, playing around with it. So I had it open because I was doing some reading. We did this part for the web API. Let's see what web apps. So you got Razor pages, MVC, or Blazor. The front end doesn't matter as much. I'm more familiar with these two than Blazor, but I would like to learn Blazor at some point. Let's see what they have here. This is everything on the routes. The only thing that stopped me from using MVC is it doesn't necessarily follow that model. And the reason why I say it doesn't follow that model is because the MVC is, in my opinion, a lot better suited for like your basic CRUD apps. And this really isn't a basic CRUD app. It is, you're adding stuff to it. Actually, maybe it does. You can have a controllers like we do for the events. Conference controller will be one. Okay, I think we'll do that. I'm not going to do it right now because there's only typically a half hour left in my stream. So I think I'll we'll start next week on building out the client app. Thursday is try it out Thursday. So I don't know, experiment with Thursday. Maybe be a Blazor app to see what it is, or maybe I'll play with all 3 versions and see which one makes more sense. Or maybe look at Ionic. Ionic has made some really big improvements in it. And the only reason why I like it is because you can write an app once and run it in multiple places. Oh, okay, it supports Vue now. So you look at the framework, like their mobile UI toolkit. Even though it's mobile UI, it really doesn't run just on mobile. You can create, as you see, iOS, Android, Electron apps, or progressive web apps. The Electron app means it can run on a Mac or a Windows PC. Plus, you can also target specific operating systems for mobile devices. So it's kind of cool that way with it. And it's a free platform. There's some pricing for some of the certain parts of it, like I think capacitor or stencil you pay for. And capacitor, I think, is free. Maybe we'll play around with this. This way we build it once. But this has been really a stream around the Microsoft platform of things. So maybe we build it, the web app, with Razor, MVC, or Blazor, and then come back and look how we can do the same thing with something else. Because once you have the API, how you connect to it doesn't matter as much. Okay, so it looks like I have some homework to do outside of fixing one of the other sites I broke yesterday or on Sunday. Making some changes and I broke something and fixing it. Cool. That's all I really had for today. I'll probably go on forever just starting to build the client app. Tune in Thursday and I'll play around with all the 3 different ones and kind of see which one makes sense. Said, if any questions, feel free to reach out to any of the social media outlets below. Have a great day.